All right, we are back for the majors preview part two. Last week on the podcast, if you missed that, we did Aronimink and obviously the Masters. Today, we're going to talk about Shinnecock and Royal Birkdale. How are you feeling about those two golf courses, Steve?
One, I was very I shouldn't say that. I was actually excited to watch both. Because my routine is usually I fire up the YouTube, I go back and watch the final rounds of both, and I have very fond memories of both. I remember Shinnecock being just absolute cinema all weekend.
Shinnecock final round on YouTube should win an Oscar.
Well, so
I mean,
I have some gripes about that.
well,
But
okay,
as far as the coverage goes, like it's another reminder of just how much Fox was just we didn't appreciate it when it was here. The fact they have Gil Hanse on the coverage, just explaining the nuances of the golf course and
that's what I'm saying.
And like how they actually set it up and what the consequences are of missing in certain places, and actually like setting up the arena and explaining why this is a big deal and why this place is special, as opposed to just CBS or NBC that kind of just say, okay, balls are in the air. This is what they have here. And no, Fox was phenomenal, and it was a joy to watch that. But I had fond memories of both. I hit the outright on both tournaments. One lived up to it on the rewatch. The other one, we'll get to it in a little bit. A little bit disappointing when I rewatch it, but no, I'm very excited to talk about both golf courses tonight. We don't have strokes gained data on it, so there's probably going to be a lot of speculation on our part as far as how it plays, where you want to target. It should be a pretty interesting discussion tonight.
Yeah, we'll get to Birkdale, obviously. I think we should just jump right into Shinnecock because I have a lot to say about this golf course. I really love this golf course. Like, it is a really special event for me. I grew up going to the area. My dad retired to the area. I will be at this major championship for the entire week. I will go to all the practice rounds. I will go to every day of the tournament. It's a golf course I played, but I want to be very clear that like this is not a golf course that I have intimate. I don't know if you've heard, Steve, Shinnecock, like not the easiest of invites. Like it's like no. the type of old, like the old money that needs a wheelchair. It's so old and blue blood. I played the golf course one time when I was 17 years old. So this is not a golf course that I have intimate personal knowledge about the way that I do with like an Oak Hill or a Riviera or a LACC, where I played those a bunch recently. I do remember a lot about Shinnecock, even when I played it 14 years ago. It's a really weird golf course because I think if you watch it on television, I could definitely, and Brian has said this to me. He's like, I don't really understand the cock. Like what, like a lot of the holes, they kind of just blend together because it looks like you're kind of just in this wide open giant field surrounded by fescue. And I get that. Like it is not a golf course with giant memorable features. It's a grand golf course with a lot of topography, and it's a beautiful property, and it's close to the ocean, but it's not a golf course that has ocean views. It's not a golf course that has water hazards outside of a pond on 8 that doesn't really come into play. So it's not like a Pebble Beach or even like a Marion, which has a lot of holes that aesthetically just catch your eyes. It's kind of a golf course that punches above its weight and is greater than the sum of its parts, and is pretty much a consensus top 5 to 7 golf course in the world. I can explain why I think that is, despite the fact that I definitely can see some people, again, watching the golf course, if they go back to 2018 like we did, and saying like, man, a lot of these holes blend together visually, aesthetically. That I have a terrible memory about certain things. And I remember specific shots and holes from this golf course that I played almost 15 years ago. So I might have my just love of Long Island golf goggles on, but to me, this is going to be the tournament of the year. This is going to be the hardest golf course that we see all year. And it is the one that it is without a doubt my most anticipated event of the year.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, even if you want to say the holes blend together, for me personally, that doesn't matter because of what each hole just gives you as you progress through the round. And it's mostly when I'm watching golf, and I'm sure you probably would agree with me, is obviously we prefer firm conditions with a lot of short grass because that adds to the excitement and thrill of you're not just watching a ball in the air and then it lands and it's like, okay, either it rolls in the rough or just stops, on a flat green and, the shot's over. At Shinnecock, ball hits the ground. There's a lot of really interesting topography that we'll probably talk about that'll probably impact a little bit what you're looking for at this place. Tee to green, where it's pretty wide fairways. They'll narrow them for the U.S. Open. I think mostly like 35 to 45 yards on average, but pretty wide corridors, a lot of short grass, and there's a lot of interesting topography where once the ball hits a slope, where's it going to roll to?
But the fairways play a lot narrower than they actually are, particularly with the wind.
Yes, with the wind. I mean, these guys still peppered the fairways in 2018, though.
What was the driving accuracy percentage?
71%.
Yeah, that's quite.
That's the third highest rate of the last 17. And it's mostly because,
gosh, even in round one, when the golf course played 6.5 strokes over par.
Well, I don't have it for the entire tournament, but I just grabbed the, I think it's for the guys who made the cut. But for those 70 guys, it was 71%. And even like round four, when they really dumbed it down, it was pretty high. But a part of that is, there's options off the tee. We'll get to a couple of those holes, but you don't necessarily have to pull driver on a lot of it. You can use the topography to just hit an iron or a 3-wood out there. And if it catches the slope, it'll roll an extra 40 yards. That played a little bit into why the driving accuracy rates are pretty high. Just because, it's a little bit wider corridors and you don't have to hit driver a whole lot. But you have that element to it. But obviously with the short, tight lies around the green, the firm conditions, the really severe greens, just when the ball hit the green, other than round four, where all the pins were in the middle of the green, usually it was, okay, the ball would start rolling a little bit like, all right, where's it going to go? And you could definitely see some times where I remember, a couple of shots of Koepka or Finau, or even how hole number 2 played where he had a shoulder that guys are trying to hit on the left side. And if you hit at the right side of it would funnel towards the pin. If you hit the left side, it would repel away. Those are the type of tournaments I love watching because it adds just more to the drama and excitement of just balls hitting the ground. Where's it going to roll to? So sure, like could some of the holes, I guess, theoretically look kind of the same on television? Maybe, but the entertainment factor of just what happens with the ground and when the balls hit the turf, just to provide a 4-day enjoyable tournament for me that I had very fond memories of and was very much appreciative to look back on and rewatch.
Yeah, let's talk about 2018 for a second. Just to give some big picture stuff on the golf course, designed in 1891, originally by Willie Davis. 1894, Willie Dunn expanded the golf course, and then it kind of came into its own in the 1920s more with William Flynn kind of giving it the full 18-hole treatment. But it has the oldest golf clubhouse in the country. It's probably the greatest golf clubhouse in the country. A lot of good contenders for that title, but I'd probably give Shinnecock the belt. Can you guess how much the parcel of land was purchased for in Southampton for in 1891?
Probably something absurdly expensive for 1891. I'm going to say a whopping $6.
It was purchased for $2,500.
Oh, okay.
I was joking with a friend about how many zeros we'd have to add to that today because it's amongst it sits on the most expensive real estate now in America. I mean, it's really like that and NGL. It's right next door to National Golf Links of America, the golf course you can see behind me in the picture, my favorite golf course in the world. and you will see shots of National Golf Links of America because you can see them from Shinnecock. Like the golf courses are literally right next to them, and kind of Sabonic Road and Tuckahoe Road kind of split them a little bit through the middle. We mentioned Brooks. You already mentioned Brooks. He won the golf tournament at +1. Oh, actually, wait, one more big picture thing. The club requested this year, I read this, that they were going to substantially reduce the number of large hospitality and concession tents inside the interior of the course compared to 2018. So I think that's kind of a big victory visually, both if you're watching at home or attending in person. It's going to be a slightly scaled down Open compared to 2018, which I think is awesome. Like, I think less grandstands. I understand why they're there, but I think less grandstands, the better. I just got home from Riviera, and they were already, the grandstands for the tournament in February were already up. And it actually like takes away from some of like the fun visuals of the trees, how they frame the green. So I think that's a win for viewers, that there's going to be less grandstands. It's going to feel less corporate. LACC and Pinehurst, two very corporatized US Opens, like a lot of corporate tents. And it seems like the members at Shinnecock, a bit of a surly bunch, are not as interested in that. So that's exciting. Brooks Koepka won at +1. The scoring average in round one was +6.46. That's got to be the highest scoring average of the last 10 years in a single round of golf, right?
Yeah, we'd have to look back.
I think about like some of the hardest rounds I've seen, like at +4.5. I never see plus over 5. So I can effort that at a later time. But the point being, it overall, you mentioned the weak Sunday setup. It played 4 strokes easier on Sunday than it did on Thursday. Round 2 and 3 were kind of in the middle, +3.6 and +5.3. So it kind of averaged to +4.39. It's a golf course that you can lose, right? Like the USGA has not always had the best success of setting this golf course up. Like 2004 was pretty infamous in the gaffes of the setups, and they obviously kind of teetered that edge in round 1, and then kind of overwatered a little bit. And I mean, it's a really difficult golf course to manage and set up because it plays on such firm turf. So, once you get a little bit of wind, once you start getting 10 to 15 mile per hour gusts, balls will routinely start rolling off the green. So the USGA is a difficult tightrope to walk with this golf course because it sits on such firm turf. And anytime you get a lot of wind, it's very easy for balls to start moving in place. So, it's going to be very fascinating to see how they set this golf course up in 2025 compared to 2018, if they are even more conservative, right? Like if they viewed the +6.5 scoring average in round 1 as unfair, and the +2.2 scoring average in the final round as of more what they want the golf course to be. I don't really know. They didn't really add anything to the golf course unless I'm missing something between 2018 and 2025. But how do you think they're going to set the golf course up comparatively to 2018? Just to kind of frame that discussion of what was interesting to us from 2018. Like, what do you think will change in 2025? We obviously don't have the weather yet, but
yeah. Well, before we get to that, you mentioned you couldn't think of a higher round score at a major. I happen to find one. Opening round, Carnoustie, 1999, played to a +7.3. Sick. Yep. So as soon as I'm like, I know that because I routinely, because Data Golf now has like every single major now going back to like 1983, and I've definitely gone through a bunch of these, and I remember that one. So I just want to bring that up. But no, as far as this golf course up, let's let's really tell the tale of the USGA and the amount of times they've been in the punching bag at Shinnecock Hills. So let's go back to 2004, where you got one of those typical Long Island days where it was hot, it was sunny, and the USGA, I forget which green it was in particular, but it was one of the par threes where they set up one of the pins just a little too close to the ridge.
7.
It was 7.
Yeah,
And
the Redan.
yeah, and it got to the point of they had to water between each group,
which is hilarious.
Yes, it was. It is, and just wildly unfair. And also, by
completely
the way,
compromises the integrity of the golf tournament.
Yeah. I mean, I remember them saying, like, you know, they would spray the green, and you could, like, I forget what said, but like you could see the water droplets just kind of roll like everywhere. Like it was a farce. But I remember, because this was actually, because I started at SGPN, I think in the fall of 2017. So this was like the first year I was actually writing about golf. So I was like accumulating some intel, and I had remembered about what happened in 2004. I was in high school at that point. And I remember the USGA putting out their propaganda videos, just doing their apology tour of this time it's going to be different. And they were putting out all these agronomy videos of what they would do to like measure the moisture levels of each green. Like they were syringing it. They were showing exactly what they would do to prevent this from happening again. And, you know, it's like, even though it was really difficult in round one, I remember watching and I remember some of the commentary there, and it was mostly just because of the weather and conditions at that point. It wasn't necessarily golf course setup. It just was a typical Shinnecock day, really windy, really firm, you know, no problems there. Got a little easier in round two. But what happened in round three was it started off pretty benign during the day. They had watered the greens at the beginning of the day. And then you saw guys go pretty low. You saw Tony Finau go pretty low. You saw Daniel Berger go pretty low. But what they didn't anticipate happening was, because it started the day with the north wind, which actually the members, I guess they mentioned this on the broadcast. They said the north wind's actually the tougher wind of the two winds, but the southern wind came through and was a little drier wind. And where they had set up the pins, they didn't anticipate that wind coming in, and it really started to bake out the greens, and the grass started wilting on the greens. And what happens is, and I actually made a joke, I think about a week ago when I showed the GCSA report, they said that the stimp meter was 11 on the greens. I said that was the biggest lie in the world. Well, it turns out actually, from what they were trying to set up, yeah, it probably did start out as an 11, but as soon as that grass started to not necessarily die, but just wilt, and that friction just became, you know, a lot less. And
it becomes a pool table. Like,
yeah, basically at that point. And where they had some of the pins, it just became circus golf. You know, and the world got to hear, you know, Dr. Zach Johnson come out and announce to the world that their favorite puppy had died. Shinnecock Hills they lost the golf course. You know, he said as eloquently as he could. And
it's so that funny just to me that Zach is responsible for that quote. Like of all people.
Well, it was like, I think it was with like Sky Sports or BBC that did it too. Like, it wasn't even like Golf Channel or NBC. It was one of the overseas ones. And
he was so serious about it. We've lost the golf course.
Yes. You know, they didn't mean it, but you know, just, you know, we lost it. And but I remember though, like the famous shot that there's two that come to mind. Brooks hit it pin high on, I think, 13 or 14, and it just rolled off the green into the bunker. I think Scott Piercy putted off the green. Nobody was making putts, and it turned into a bit of a fiasco on Saturday, to the point where I mentioned Berger and Finau. I weren't they like the first or second groups out? I think on Saturday.
Berger and Finau were the first or second groups out on Saturday, and then
Yeah.
they were the final group on Sunday.
Which
And
is
let
ridiculous.
me tell you something about Tony Finau on Sunday. He wanted no part of that tournament.
No.
Tony Finau was hard dropped from coverage after the second hole, never to be heard from again.
Well,
But
you know what?
yeah,
Actually, that's not. He rallied in the middle.
he
to the
did.
point they brought him back.
He
But
came
you're
back,
right.
he
You're
came back
right.
a little bit.
You're
but
right. Berger and Finau was a struggle bus to start.
Berger and Finau was a struggle bus, and I did not realize at all how close Patrick Reed came to winning the Masters and the US Open in the same year.
Yeah.
Patrick Reed was tied for the lead after the 8 hole. He started out 5 under through 7. And it was really kind of, because Fleetwood posted that number, and I have some takes on that Fleetwood round, particularly the missed putts on 16 and 18. Oh my God. But Reed was really the most dangerous man on that golf course.
Yeah. I mean, I had forgotten about that too, where he got off to because everyone remembers the Fleetwood post in the 63, going out early, taking advantage of conditions a little bit. Yeah, it's and you know, it started to get, the wind started to pump as soon as he got off the golf course conveniently, which provided a lot of drama, because you had to see, okay, can Brooks hold on? Can Patrick Reed maintain? Can DJ make a little bit of run? But we'll talk about DJ too. God damn, like he missed a lot of putts as well.
He missed a lot of putts.
But yeah, I had forgotten. I knew Reed did well. I had forgotten how serious it came. And this was off the heels of him just giving the middle finger to everybody and winning the Masters when nobody wanted him to win. And then all of a sudden he comes to Shinnecock and, oh my God, he's going to win 2 majors. Like, what the hell is this? So yeah, but that Sunday, when I watched, I remember at the time feeling, they really wussed out. And knowing what I know now, doing this for a while, what they ended up doing was I feel like they overreacted. I feel like they probably could have came out of Saturday and be like, our bad. We didn't set up the pins, but let's still set up challenging pin positions on Sunday. Maybe we'll get a little better control of the weather as far as like what we think it's going to do. It's fine. Instead, they overwatered the greens again. I think they watered some of the fairways as well, just to slow them down. They put pins in the middle of the green on 11 holes, to the point where you're watching this, and the second hole comes to mind, where it's a 264 yards, slightly uphill par 3. And I'm seeing Steve Stricker stick it to like 2 feet. Like, and that's happened over and over. Like, there's a lot early in that coverage. You had a lot of good looks for birdie. A lot of guys get into about 12 feet because they put the pins in really flat spots. To the point where you see like things like Ricky Fowler shooting 19 strokes better day to day, or Fleetwood shooting, I think, 14 strokes better.
Fleetwood easily could have shot 61. He made some great putts on the front 9, but he did not birdie. He shot a 63 without birdieing either of the par 5s. He did not birdie 5, which is the easiest hole on the golf course. And he had 60 yards in on 16 and did not get up and down. He left his approach shot 12 feet short, missed the putt. And then he also had, what was that, a 7-8 footer on 18 that he missed?
Yeah, it was probably like 8 feet.
Yeah.
Which I want to talk about the putting later, but yeah, like he missed an 8 footer.
Tommy Fleetwood, and I'm quite high on Tommy Fleetwood for majors this year. He is like a generationally accurate driver of the ball. I know that strokes gained off the tee is very much measured now by distance, and I can talk about that because I was diving into some of the previous US Open metrics and stuff. But Tommy Fleetwood, I don't think he missed a fairway all day. And I know there wasn't as much wind, particularly when he was playing, but that was one of I know the golf course was playing easy, but that was one of the flushier rounds I've ever seen out of a guy. I mean, he missed a ton of opportunities to shoot 61. So anyway.
Yeah, no, he had a phenomenal ball striking day. I tend to look at it with a little bit of an asterisk just based on how they set it up. But not like I even on
He
rewatching
beat the
it
course
though,
average by 9 strokes, though.
yeah, he did. Like I'm
Yeah.
being a little unfair to Tommy, and it's mostly because I look back and just like I remember how easy it was at the beginning of the day, and then it really ramped up. And plus, I had a bet on Brooks, so maybe it's a little bit of defensiveness and just
And
I
it
had
kind of
it in
became
my
like what
head.
was interesting about it too was Tommy posted the +2
Yeah,
and Brooks was kind of hovering between even and +2 all day. So Tommy finished the round before Brooks even got to the back 9. So it basically just became, can Brooks shoot even? If Brooks can shoot even par over these last 9 holes, then he wins the US Open, which by the way, he went back to back. We should also mention that he won Aaron Hills and he was the #1 player in the world at the time as well.
yeah, and it got really dicey for Brooks in the beginning of that front 9 or the back 9 there, where he hit a horrible shot on 11. He tugged his wedge a little bit, ends up rolling all the way down the hill and actually going right up against the collar, the fescue there. Tries to hit a bump and run off the slope, and it ends up rolling into the bunker over on the other side, but gets up and down for a really good bogey on 11. On 12, he pulls less than driver and he hits into the hay again. Ends up muscling it out, but it rolls right through the green, but ends up getting up and down again, say par. On the next hole, I think he pulls less than driver again and puts it right into the rough. Ends up having to just hack out, but he gets up and down, I think, from like 80 yards. So just a lot of just clutch wedges and short game shots from Brooks in that crucial stretch where he hit, a bunch of 6-footers, bunch of 7-footers. And you have DJ there missing, like, I think he 3-putt a bunch of holes. He missed a lot of 4-footers. And that's really what it came down to for Brooks. Like, otherwise, we're probably, if Brooks doesn't get up and down from those 3 spots, we're probably talking Tommy US Open winner and one of the greatest comebacks in history. But Brooks just did what he had to do to figure out, okay, how can I save par here? Take his medicine in certain spots. It was really great to watch. But yeah, he had to hold on during that entire back 9 and ends up posting +1. And he ends up winning it.
Brooks played such disciplined golf, and I think you may disagree with me on this, but when I was diving into it, this felt very accuracy dependent to me, like almost a lot like Oakmont in the sense that this is far more of a precision golf course than it is a distance golf course. And I can explain kind of some of the numbers behind why I believe that and why the fairways actually being wider as opposed to like Winged Foot kind of being the canary in the coal mine in that situation with how distance at these US Open venues, distance actually becomes more of a priority when you shrink the fairways even more, and how Shinnecock and Oakmont, for that matter, are just wide enough for accurate players to garner a real advantage. But like you look at those leaderboards in terms of and I know like Brooks and DJ, perhaps a bit of a red herring, but a lot of those, a lot of the, like Brooks took less than driver quite a bit. Like he used that driving iron quite a bit at Shinnecock. And you look at some of the previous winners in Corey Pavin and Retief Goosen, Tommy Fleetwood, obviously, as well. Guys like Matt Fitzpatrick and Daniel Berger, Patrick Reed, Webb Simpson at the time, like all having a lot of success at Oakmont. The reason why I think this is going to be more of an accuracy than distance US Open, there's graduated rough at Shinnecock. It's not graduated in the sense that you think, because it's a lot of wispy fescue, but this is a golf course where larger misses are penalized more than smaller misses, right? Like it's not binary like Winged Foot. Like the reason why distance mattered so much at Winged Foot was because the missed fairway penalty was binary, right? Like if you miss the fairway, same with Torrey Pines, if you miss the fairway by 30 yards versus if you miss the fairway by 2 yards, essentially the penalty was the exact same, right? Shinnecock does not have a binary miss fairway penalty. It has graduated rough where you have that first cut of rough that's brutal, right? But then once you start to get into some of the taller, thicker fescue, it can be even more of a penalty shot. And, you know, there could be, well, I'll let you respond to that first, because to me, I think the fairways are wide enough that accurate players are going to be able to take advantage here. And the missed fairway penalty is probably the largest that we're going to see on the season. Oakmont had the largest missed fairway penalty that we saw in 2025. I would be shocked if Shinnecock doesn't feature the highest missed fairway penalty of 2026. And Oakmont, as we talked about, was a very accuracy dependent US Open as well, based on the data. So I think Shinnecock is way more personally in the Oakmont and Marion vein than it is in the Winged Foot, Torrey Pines, even Pinehurst vein, even LACC vein. But you may disagree with me.
So I saw you make those comments in Discord, and I agree with you in the standpoint of, you're right. If you are spending all your time in the fescue in the hay and have those big misses, you have no shot at Shinnecock. Where I push back a little bit on that is, you talk about the big misses at Shinnecock. There's a lot of opportunities to pull less than driver and control where you actually do miss. And even just when you look at the data here, I mean, like, I would agree with you if the driving accuracy rates were in the 50s, you know, kind of like with Oakmont last year. Like, it was 56% driving accuracy rate, 53% green regulation weight. Right here, though, you have a 71% driving accuracy rate, but then the field green regulation rate is still only 54%. So,
right. But I think a lot of that is also because if you're not hitting the green regulation unless you hit the.
Sure, but there's also a fair amount of that where they're difficult approach shots where even if you're in the fairway, you still
totally
green as well. So while I'll admit there's going to be a very steep missed fairway penalty, like they were even talking about with hole number 14, where it was a one shot difference between missing the fairway and hitting the fairway. Like, I'll agree with that. But when you have a 71% driving accuracy rate and the field is only hitting the green 54% of the time, like, there is plenty of opportunities for you to mess up even when you're in the fairway, especially if they do want to push the envelope and make it a little spicier and a little crispier. Now, and I think that kind of leads me where I feel about this tournament, to where if the USGA wants to set this up a little more benign and learn their lessons and say, we're not going to let it get as out of control as what it got on Saturday in 2018 and in 2004, then I think I would agree with you on that, where, you know, it's probably going to make it a little more wide open. But I feel like when we come to this type of term, when it's going to be really, like, if it's going to be really firm, really fiery, where it's going to be very slick, these greens, and how do I want to say this? I guess I see this more like this could be more Pinehurst than you, from the standpoint of, if they're really setting some tricky pins and the greens are really fiery and firm, you want to have a very high ball flight into these greens.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't think it's a coincidence to where, you know, like, we talk about who were the best players were in 2018, the entire tournament. Like, I know DJ didn't finish in second, but the best two players of the tournament in my mind were Brooks and DJ. You know, because of just, you know, the greens played a lot smaller because of how firm and fast and how difficult they were setting it. You wanted a really high ball flight in, similar to Pinehurst, where it ended up just being Bryson and Rory down the stretch. And I feel like if they set up a little harder in that direction, I want, not necessarily they hit it the farthest, because there are opportunities where you're just hitting less than driver, you're playing more positional. It's a second shot golf course. But I want the guys who have the highest ball flight in to be able to land the ball a little softer. And there was one shot in particular where I saw DJ kind of take advantage of this. He had a very bad lie, I think I forget which hole. He hit it in the rough, but he was able to hit an 8-iron. He hit it really high. It was able to land it really soft, and he stuck on the green. And
Yeah.
that kind of reinforced my position of if they set up a little harder and more fiery, like sure, like the accurate guys, the really good ball strikers, the Henrik Stensons, the Justin Rose types. Yeah, like I think for like a player pool is fine. But like if I'm looking at who's going to win at the end, it probably in my mind would just turn into the guys who just have the highest ball flight into the green, which usually are the guys who hit it the farthest. And that would be where my mind would go as far as that. The other thing too, as far as you talk about like accuracy and how predictive it is, while in tournament it could be very predictive to your strokes gained, it might not be the most accurate in order to predict these players. And if you look at the top 10, the average driving accuracy rate of the top 10 coming in, they ranked 105.6 heading into the US Open. I mean, yeah, you have Fleetwood. Yeah, you have like some other guys up there, but you had Finau and you had Patrick Reed, and Xander wasn't very accurate that year, and Koepka and DJ. So while even if in tournament accuracy is important, it doesn't necessarily mean you gravitate just towards the accurate guys, because it might not be as predictive. And I feel like it's because you're pulling a lot of less than driver. There's a little more positional play. You can use the turf in order to get the ball a little farther by pulling less than driver. So even if there is a big missed fairway penalty, even if accuracy is very paramount there, it may not be the most predictive thing to use, because it depends on it depends on how you actually play it and how you strategize.
Right. It's a lot about club choice, and wind also can like break a lot of the predictiveness of accuracy. I mean, the only problem I have with Pinehurst is like that golf course did not end up having, I think it ranked like 24th in missed fairway penalty, and this is going to rank first. And I think that's why Bryson, and even statistically, I know that Rory and Bryson were kind of red herrings as these like super long players at the top of the leaderboard. But if you look at top 20 finishers on average, Pinehurst actually showed a stronger accuracy correlation than distance. Top 20 finishers were on average 3 yards longer, 5% more accurate. Accuracy provided 24% more separation than distance. But even that, I mean, what I would say about Pinehurst that is trickier at Shinnecock is Pinehurst from an accuracy and distance perspective. There's more random, and there is a lot of randomness at Shinnecock too, because of like, just depends what lie you get, but there's not that type of thing at Pinehurst where you either have like a perfect shot out of hard pan sand or you're in a bush. And that kind of creates the critical distinction for me, where at Pinehurst accuracy is about controlling misses, and at Shinnecock it's more about avoiding the rough entirely, because the missed fairway penalty, just anytime you miss the fairway, is so huge. Now, you may be right about the fact that if you club down, it's just not that hard to miss the fairways here. They're wide enough where it's just not that hard. And the golf course is long, but it's not a ton of long irons. Like, it is a ton of shots from 150 to 200 yards. I think that's the key range here for me. What did you have the proximity buckets? I always like back checking with you, but I had them as 2 of 18 inside 100, 3 of 18 100 to 125, 2 of 18 125 to 150, 1 of 18 150 to 175, and 7 of 18 175 to 200, and 3 of 18 200 yards plus. Now, a big reason for that is I think both of the par fives, at least one of them, is generally not reachable. A lot of this depends on wind direction, but 16 is really hard to reach. But I think it's a lot of golf shots between 150 to 200 yards.
Yeah, so I agree with you with that. Here's the funny thing though. This is what's going to make it really difficult to figure out what the proximity bugs are, because I actually am the psychopath who watched all 6 hours, and every time I watched the approach that they said how much yardage was on there, I put
And
a
you
little
marked it
note on the
down.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how let's go over. It wasn't everybody. It was like probably I wrote down like, once I got like 5-6 shots about the same range where I'll quit. But let's talk about the third hole in particular. So in the morning, it played into the wind. You had a north wind. Guys had 173 and 196 in. Then about 20 minutes later, the wind flips, and all of a sudden I'm watching Terrell Hatton on number 3 have 128 in. Big difference, right? Yeah. So you have the wind shifts there, if you come from the north or the south there. You also have some different strategies that come into play. So for example, on number 10, that's a shorter par 4, where guys are using less than driver the whole time. But you had the option of, you could really club down and keep it on top of the plateau there and give yourself about 174 yard shot. That's what Jimmy Walker did. Patrick Reed also did that. Brooks even did that. He chose to have a longer approach shot in. Or you have guys like Ricky and Phil, and I think DJ, who took a little longer iron. They caught the slope. It trickled all the way down to the bottom of the basin. They had an uphill shot up to it, but they only had like 70 yards in. So that's kind of what it speaks to as far as like strategy at this place and choices off the tee, where, depending on what shot you want, on some of these holes, you could either really lay back and give yourself a longer shot, or you can try and push the envelope a little bit, use the ground, or just maybe pull driver, be a little more aggressive to give yourself a shorter approach shot. It's really variable hole to hole. So for the most part, though, I have most of my approach shots between 125 and 200, though. But it's really just based on the small sample in round 4. I don't have the data from the first 3 rounds, though. So, but it was an observation I made of just how you can have choices off the tee, and based on just how the topography is and where the wind is, it really can change the type of approach shot and the yardage you have in. So it's going to be difficult to figure out. Like, I'm really glad now we finally have strokes gained, and we're going to have the shot link data actually give this an autopsy and actually definitively see like an entire field of what the shots are and what the penalty is and everything like that. And that's what makes this conversation interesting. Like we're speculating on what the data is. We're guessing on what it could be to the other golf course. And that's what's going to be really fascinating about this tournament from a handicap perspective. And it's really going to be interesting to see how everybody else looks at it as well. And we got about 6 months to figure that out, but it's a really interesting golf course to break down as far as what you should value.
It's really fun to break down. Like, I think I'm a little bit more accuracy dependent than you are on this golf course, leaning more towards like Oakmont than Pinehurst. But even just hearing you talk about, like, I was just trying to quickly add a distance modifier into my numbers just to like see how much things changed if you gave a boost to players that had above average distance and were probably still able to garner the same type of approach shots by hitting less than driver, like you saw Brooks do, and quite a bit with like that weapon that he had with the driving iron. Talk about the players. Like, what do you think about this odds board? I have not made any bets, but I think there are some good bets on that board.
Yeah. I mean, like, because I have the mindset, and it really depends on how it's set up. Like, if I feel like the USGA is going to try and push the envelope like it did in 2018, 2004, not these guys, give these guys a break, then it very well could end up being where the guys just have the highest ball flight, and where not necessarily distance off the tee is what's going to win it for them, but just the fact that they can pull a shorter club and have a little higher lofted club into these greens. And like, I'm worried it could just be like a Bryson Rory type tournament too, where it's just those guys at the end, because the greens are just so fiery and crisp and slick, where you really just want to have a high ball flight in, and that's all that's going to really matter at the end of the day. Now, I think with Pinehurst, I think the approach shots were, like you said, like if you hit it in the junk, there really wasn't a huge penalty there. The green regulation rate though still was only 54% though, so with similar driver accuracy rates. So I mean, guys ran up kind of in similar situations like you did Shinnecock, with really high accuracy rates and low green regulation rates. But I mean, like, talk about guys who have had success on golf courses with a lot of short grass around the green. I mean, obviously Rory with Augusta, Bryson has really improved there as well. Bryson won Pinehurst. And if this really does turn into a little bit more of an aerial game, which I think it could turn into if they really push the envelope with the setup, it could just be those two at the end duking it out again, like it did at Pinehurst. So obviously I'm a little hesitant to place a bunch of bets. There's a lot of other ones I do like, because I do think, just like, I'm only thinking from a winner standpoint. Like, obviously, like, I look back at that Shinnecock tournament and you have like a Henrik Stenson can do great. And like, golf's changed a lot in 7 years, but like, Stenson is fantastic ball striker, hits a lot of fairways, a little difficult with the putter. But one of the things I also noticed too, like, and we kind of skipped over this, was I forgot how difficult it was to putt on these greens, not necessarily because of how they're undulated, but because of how inconsistent and bumpy they are, especially late in the day.
There's POA. There's POA in the greens.
Yeah, it's bent POA greens, but even like, and I remember like, it wasn't quite Chambers Bay level bad, like where you have like Billy Horschel like saying it's a snake, but like I could see DJ stand over a putt and then he missed like a 4-footer on the left side, and he just went to Austin's guy. He just went like this, like, just bumped. So like, you could definitely see the ball bumping, especially late in the day. And like, I know you've mentioned, I think when we talk about like POA, like, I'm not saying it's like West Coast POA.
POA just kicked my ass an hour ago. It's so hard. Like, it's so confusing and difficult.
Well, then maybe you can talk about this then. Like, cause I noticed a difference between the putting strokes of Brooks late in the day on this surface and DJ, where and you've made mention of this when you go on the West Coast POA, like, you got to have like confidence. Like, you got to have confidence in your strokes.
Yeah.
And even talking about Tommy missing that putt on 18, he said he had the right line, but he just didn't have the pace. And what happens is when you get on some of these bumpier greens, if you don't have the right pace, then it has a much greater ability to just hit like a bud or a little like inconsistent patch and roll offline. If you are confident with your pace, though, you can power right through that and, hit good putts. And Brooks hit a lot of putts with conviction, it seemed like, and DJ kind of hit a lot of like wishful putts, it seemed like, and he didn't seem to get a lot of confidence in this putting stroke. So, I don't really know necessarily how you quantify that. Like, you could probably, like, I pulled in my model, because I don't think you're going to be making a lot of putts between under 5. Like, I think it's gonna be really difficult between like 5 to 10 feet and under 15 feet. You can probably look at some of those golf courses where they have those difficult conditions and see like, okay, like who performs pretty well on golf courses with pretty difficult greens. Like, you do that. But long story short, though, like there's definitely I feel like to round back to like a Stenson type, or like I'm talking about like a 2018, or even now like a Hideki type, where he struggles off the tee, but like, if this is one where he can club down a little bit, he's still such a great ball striker, fantastic around the green, especially with short grass, and he's a little deficient with the putter. Like, that could be somebody who could do very well here. And I think you can get him at like, 50 to 1, 55 to 1, I think is the best price. He just won, an 18-man hit and giggle, but sometimes it comes and goes with Hideki, and I still consider him one of the better ball strikers in the world. And, that could be somebody I could like, probably not necessarily, I don't know if he's going to win this thing, but to play well that week, he's got my attention.
It's interesting. We have somewhat different reads on the golf course, which I love, because a lot of the time we don't, and we still actually ended up going to the same guy, because Hideki was actually the guy that jumped out to me. He finished 16th at Shinnecock in 2018. He also finished 6th at Pinehurst 2 years ago. He finished 10th at Marion in 2013. Super accuracy dependent US Open. 18th at Chambers Bay as well, which you mentioned some potential similarities with the putting. I circled Hideki. I mean, I continue to think numerically there are some missed prices, but they're not guys that I think logically in my head are going to win the US Open. So like, for example, JJ Spawn to me is, we talked about this in the Discord a little bit. JJ Spawn is ruthlessly mispriced, like at all the majors. Like he's 120 to 1 at the US Open, 150 to 1 at the Masters, 150 at the Open Championship. He's was like the 7th best player in the world last year. Like every time I make any type of model, even if I like really try and lower accuracy, which is a huge strength for him, and increase distance, he's like he should be like 50 to 1 based on who he has been this past year. Now, these models are, they're not as much predictive as they are descriptive of like, here's what happened in 2025. If the major was tomorrow, this is what the prices should be. These are the guys that are best suited to play this golf course. The major's not until 6 months. So there's an element of it where it's like, what prices are wrong now? Yeah, you could just bet all those guys that you think are plus EV, but I'm not going to do that because you're also having to think about, well, is this guy going to continue what he did in 2025, or was that an outlier? For the 4 years prior to 2025, JJ Spawn was somewhere around the 75th to 125th best player in the world. And then in 2025, he was like the 7th best player in the world. So what's going to happen in 2026? Is he the 8th best guy, or is he the 80th best guy again? It's hard to say, but like some prices that stuck out to me, like Aaron Rai, like 85 to 1 based on his skill set. I know he was a popular bet at Oakmont for similar reasons. He has played very well on accuracy dependent golf courses, but then also played very well on like windy links golf courses that have very firm turf. And Shinnecock is very, very much described as like, has a lot of links properties. Like I think it is, I've heard it been described by, and this is not like a data comp or a pro golf comp. This is just me talking to friends that are really well traveled and have played a lot of golf courses. Compare it to Muirfield, I've heard quite a bit. So, the guys that kind of jumped out to me, Scheffler is obviously going for the Grand Slam. My numbers make him plus 250 to win this golf tournament, right? Like we could just pretty good golf course for Scotty Scheffler, obviously, but
hold on a second. All right. So, I mean, cause the last couple of US Opens, like we've saw Scotty kind of get a little short circuit a little bit.
I know there's that argument.
So I know, like, well, we also tried to make that argument about like the Open Championship that he won by a touchdown essentially. So, but like, you remember how he threw a conniption fit at Pinehurst, how like balls are rolling everywhere, good shots weren't rewarded. What if we get some borderline unfair conditions at Shinnecock? What if he's unhappy with how the ball's rolling on the green, coming off the putter face a little bit?
Oh, without a doubt. Like Shinnecock is going to be just straight up like way more random than the Masters. That's why like my probability for Scotty right now to win the US Open is like 25%. And my probability for him to win the Masters is like 50%. Right. You saw it at Oakmont a little bit last year. Like, when you have such a high missed fairway penalty and such fast greens, you're going to get a lot more randomness than the predictiveness and the course history of Augusta, and then throw wind on top of that, which is the single most difficult variable to model. And that's why, like, if you looked at the top 10 in strokes gained putting or around the green at a golf course like Oakmont, you could have given the smartest person in the world 100 stabs at that, and they wouldn't have been able to figure that out. There is that element of Shinnecock where there's just inherently more randomness at this golf tournament, just like you see it in a windy Open Championship, than there would be at the Masters.
Oh, for sure. It just when you said Scotty, that popped in my mind because I don't think
he's going to win the Grand Slam at Shinnecock. I don't.
Well, I mean, because I think other than just the absurdly like he's what plus 100 to win the Masters, like for fair value. Like we didn't really talk a ton about Scotty last show because I think with Aronimik we said it was kind of really wide open. The Masters, this guy, like what else can you really talk about? But like with Scotty at this U.S. Open, obviously going for the Grand Slam, but with that randomness that you just described, like how will Scotty react to it? Because we have seen sometimes it hasn't gone that great with him. So. I mean, obviously though, look, even if I do push back on the accuracy thing, like Scotty's put a driver in his hand, put an iron in his hand, he's going to hit all the fairways, and he's gained a lot of distance too, and he's best iron player in the world, and he's great from short grass and good on all these difficult greens that I measured as well. So, I mean, like obviously if he can keep his cool and maybe if the setup isn't quite as unfriendly what it was a couple of these tournaments and it won't cause him to just throw a conniption fit. Like, yeah, like obviously this is a great golf course for Scotty. Like, but it's just something I think like kind of narrative street kind of think about with him. Just based on some of the things that have happened in the last couple of US Opens.
Any closing thoughts on Shinnecock? Or are you ready to get to Birkdale?
Well, I mean, there's a couple other players that
give them to me.
There's 100-1 on our boy Matt Fitzpatrick sitting out there right now. I don't think he's actually going to win, but that's a good price for the U.S. Open. He played well.
That's a great price.
Played well at Shinnecock.
85 to 1.
Yeah, that's on FanDuel right now. He played really well at Shinnecock in 2018. This is, I mean, like he was still kind of a young guy, hadn't really done a lot in majors up until then, but he was definitely, like hanging around the top 10.
He was relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, he was relevant. Russell Henley, like I'm listen, he's from a guy who's going to play well. He played pretty good the first couple days. And then
I have Russell Henley like fourth on the odds board at 29 to 1.
But
he's 70 to 1.
You got a 70 to 1 on him. Like,
and I just added a distance modifier and he's still like 30 to 1.
Yeah. Like I'm not going to push back on a guy like him where he's like, at the end of the day, I still consider this a second shot golf course because it's pretty obtainable to hit fairways. And you really like, if you do miss a green here, like I think the miss green penalty, I think is going to be more severe than actually the miss fairway penalty, to be honest. Cause like it just how tough some of these collection areas are around these greens, like, and how difficult it is to actually get up and down and make a 5-footer. Like you give Russell Henley all these fairways and he's such a good iron player. Like, yeah, like a guy like him is like that's 70 to 1. Here's a really gross name.
Mm-hmm.
But he's hitting his irons really good. His irons really good all year. I actually had pretty good. I ran a strokes game model for around the green performance on tight lies.
Mm-hmm.
And he raced pretty well there. And we thought he had absolutely no shot at Pinehurst. And he contended all week, and he's been terrible, and he's murdered us all a lot in our gambling career.
Can't lie.
There's a 70 to 1 on Patrick Cantlay sitting out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gross. I'm just going to look at it.
Make him 66. So
I'm just going to look at it. I'm not going to bet it, but I was like, that's interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah.
In December before a season, seeing Cantlay that low, and some would argue that if it's 70 to 1 or 150 to 1, it doesn't matter. It's going to return $0. But that was interesting. Just based
I will say I don't think he's going to win the U.S. Open, but I would be very surprised if you don't get CLV on that. Like I do think that number will go down. Like I don't know if Cantlay is going to return to that 2-year stretch where he was like a top 7 guy in the world, but I don't think that I have him right now as like 11th on the odds board for a US Open. Like I think that he should return at least to like a 45 to 1 guy at majors. Maybe feels right for him.
Yeah. I mean, like if he, who's to say he can't clip off Amex or Riv or, one of these early season tournaments, and then all of a sudden his odds are cut in half.
Yeah.
So
All right, let's take a quick break and then we will dive into Birkdale. All right, we are back. Royal Birkdale, the site of Jordan Spieth's last major win. I I don't know. I have some mixed feelings about this golf course. What was your impression? Or let me give some of like the big macro stuff at the top. There's a Royal Birkdale is a golf course that has hosted the Open 10 times. Most recently in 2017, won by Jordan Spieth at 12 under par. 2008, Patrick Harrington won the golf tournament at 3 over par when it was quite a bit windier. 1998, Mark O'Meara. 1991, Ian Baker Finch. It's in Southport, Merseyside, England. Not going to lie to you and act like I know where that is. I know that it is not as close to London as Liverpool. I know that Liverpool is like more of the London Open venue. I don't really know where Liverpool is in England, Steve.
okay. So it's northern England.
Mhm.
There's actually 3 Open Championship venues like right in the vicinity. You have Royal Lytham St. Anne's, you have Royal Liverpool, and you have Royal Birkdale. And Southport, I believe, is the home.
Then where is Royal St. George's? South?
Oh, that's southeast coast.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. South of London. That's way out there, like on its own. But I believe Southport is the home of Mr. Tommy Fleetwood, actually.
Sick.
Yeah, there you go. just give you more fuel to that fire there to bet him. Hometown narrative. We're gonna go back to that again.
Sick. That's so sick. I love that for Tommy.
Yep.
Hopefully it's a floodgate situation after Aronimink.
There we go.
The club was founded in 1889. The course was really reworked though into its 18 holes by Fred Hawtrey and J.H. Taylor. Martin Hawtrey did some work in the 1990s, but they have undergone an even more significant renovation ahead of this 2026 Open by the Open doctors, Mackenzie and Ebert. Right, Mackenzie and Ebert have kind of became the de facto guys. Mackenzie and Ebert Open venues that they've touched include Portrush, Troon, Liverpool, and St. George's. And quite a bit has changed about this golf course since 2017, which I will let you run us through because you're better at this than I am when it comes to summarizing changes. So what do you see that's different about this golf course in 2026 for us to prepare for?
Well, I mean, so the challenge of this is I haven't actually seen like any videos or like pictures, because like pictures and videos like that is a little better, like visuals to see like, okay, like this, you can compare this to this. It's really just overhead. So I can't really see topography changes. I've read about them, but like high level, every hole had bunker work. Specifically around the green. They redid all the bunkers, and I think on every single green, all the bunkers were redone. A lot of the smaller pop bunkers were eliminated or combined with other ones that are close together into a bigger one. Some new fairway bunkers are put in just to accommodate the the distance lengths over the years. Another thing I noticed as well is there's a lot more short grass around each green than there was back in 2017. Those areas have really been expanded. As far as if there's like collection areas or what the topography is, I'm not sure because I need to see what the changes actually were and how they've, changed the green side surrounds. But I did notice an expansion of short grass around each green. There were some tee boxes and lengthenings that were put in. On the 4th, they put a new tee box in that added about 20 yards to that hole. Number 6, they put one a little back further into the gorse. They cut that down, adds 15 yards there. But there's 3 really big changes to this golf course. One is they basically completely did the short par 4 fifth. They moved the bunker over they moved the green over to the left and reshaped it. It kind of looks like a kidney bean now. But it provides an opportunity if you do have the wind to maybe go for the green. Whereas most guys in 2017, they're basically kind of just hitting towards the dog like that was like 230 to it.
I remember Rory hitting iron there.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's not many times where you see Rory hit iron on a drivable par 4. And so that's cool. That seems positive. That seems like more guys are incentivized to go for it.
Yeah, but they added a lot of bunkers down the right side. There's even I didn't even know this watching 2017. There's a pond over on the right as well. That's there. I don't know. It's kind of strange, that hole. It's probably going to add some more strategy and excitement to it, but it doesn't feel like Open Championship type hole to me.
Yeah, fair.
But we'll see. I mean, like, I'm just looking at like the overhead of it.
Yeah.
But they redid the 14th and 15th. That they reversed it, where the 14th was a par 3. Now that is a 605-yard par 5. They added 60 yards to that par 5 that was there back in 2017. The fact, though, that it's going to play 600 yards and it's going to play into the prevailing wind off the sea, I don't really love that it's that long. I'm hoping they probably play it up a little bit, because that's probably going to make it a 3-shotter for pretty much everybody who's going to play into the wind. And it's going to kind of maybe play pretty redundant at that point. Driver, lay up to about 80, 90 yards and then wedge in. Like, you're going to see that if they're playing into the wind the entire time, you're going to see that over and over. The 15th is a new par 3. It's 242 yards. What they wanted to do, they didn't have a par 3 where you could use the helping wind to bounce the ball up to the green. They wanted to create a par 3 that used that. They did that here. They in effect, they shortened the 16th a little bit. It was, I think, 420. Now it's 395. But the 18th, and I don't know if they're going to use this tee box, but it adds a slightly new angle to the hole. But it added 45 yards to the hole, and it plays 520. So overall, I think they added about
18 you have at 520.
Yeah, there's a tee box way up on one of the sand dunes that is new that I noticed. I don't know if they're actually going to use that tee box, but it's there. It's new from 2017. It makes the whole place 520.
Yeah, I had a 506. So
yeah, so I have yardage of 7289 estimate with this.
Cool. I was
I
at
think you have
268. I'm going to change mine to 7289.
Yeah, so we're pretty close though. And it really depends on what tee box they use. The other thing they did, obviously I can't tell from the overheads, was one of the criticisms of Royal Birkdale is just how flat a piece of property it is. Apparently they have done some changes to the topography to add some more humps and bumps and undulations to the fairway. I don't know exactly what they did, but that's an interesting wrinkle, I guess, that we'll have to see exactly how that might impact the golf course. But overall, though, like, there's a lot of cosmetic changes, but it still is, less than 7,300 yards golf course. The fairways are really narrow. There's a lot of shorter approach shots still, even with like some of the lengthening. It's still pretty heavy under 150, which is kind of usually what you see out of a lot of Open Championship venues. The rough also is, and you see this at like Troon, and anytime you get to the west coast of the UK, just that type of grass is a little hardier and a little thicker sometimes.
Yeah, it's like, you really don't want to miss the fairways here. Like, it's going to be a pretty, I don't know if it's going to be Troon accuracy. Like, I don't think it's going to play as difficult as that. Well, I suppose I should say it depends on the wind, but if all things are equal, I don't think this is as difficult of a golf course as Royal Troon is.
No, I mean, Troon, you had out of bounds, you had gorse, like you had actual like penalty strokes that could accumulate. Here it is like, if you are in the rough, like, it's not going to make it easy for you. It's 20-yard fairways and like, but yeah, it's not as, I think, interesting as Troon. I don't think it's as difficult as Troon unless you have like a pretty significant win, which what they had, I think, in round 2.
Which is what they had in 2008.
Yeah. But on Saturday it played under par.
Right. It is close enough to the coast that it's very wind biased. Like I mean, for example, if you looked back at the scoring average per round in 2017, you had round 2 play 4 strokes over par when it was windy and kind of rainy, I believe. And then the next day, it played a stroke under par, 0.097. So there's a 5-stroke difference in scoring between Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Gray shot 62 on Saturday.
Right. That's what you want at Opens, right? Like, and this is kind of the same issue that we've talked about at, I mean, I kind of take St. Andrews out of the mix because St. Andrews in 2022 is just like this, the way that it plays now for the modern game is this crazy distance bias golf course. But if you look at the last 3 years of the Open Championship, and you take Troon, you take Liverpool, and you take Portrush, you have, and then you go to the top 10 finishers. How did they get it done? 28.5% approach, 27.6 putting, 24.0% off the tee. Difference between distance and accuracy. Accuracy had a 2.5x stronger total performance than distance. Distance has a weak positive effect, accuracy more of a meaningful separator. This kind of aligns qualitatively about what we know about golf courses like Hoylake and Royal Troon. To me, like this type of open venue that Birkdale falls into, you know, the Portrush, the Liverpool, the Royal St. George's, all these, Carnoustie, I think, is a more extreme version of this, but like all of these modern golf courses that have been touched by Mackenzie and Ebert, like they have narrow fairways and penal rough, and it's very difficult to bomb and gouge them, but it's really just about like positioning and short to middle iron play. None of them are very long, so you can club down off the tee quite a bit. And, you know, it kind of these open venues outside of St. Andrews, which is like bomber putter, these types of open venues to me are very, very much about like controlling off the tee and like middle iron play to me.
Yeah. So
and that's what the winners look like too, by the way.
Yeah. So here's a point. This is an observation I make. You know, I'm a big weather nut, and I obviously I've noticed differences of just types of guys who have done well at these venues when it's just really crappy conditions, and when it's really benign, soft, no wind, maybe 70-degree day, really comfy. And like last year at Portrush kind of epitomized that. So when we started in round 1, it was awful weather. It was windy. It was exactly what you wanted out of your Open Championship. And your opening leaderboard to start the day, start the round, had like Harris English, Fitzpatrick, Christian Bezuidenhout, something called Jacob Skov Olesen, Carol Hatton
definitely gets bet all the time on the DP World Tour.
Yeah.
I've heard Kyle mention his name like at least once a month.
Yeah. But like Brian Harmon, Mad McNeely, Justin Rose, Lucas Glover, Lee Westwood, Aaron Wright, Tom Kim, like guys who are not the best drivers, but when the weather gets bad, usually they got a pretty good short game. They might be pretty decent, like middle iron players. Like they know how to golf the golf ball. Okay. They're not like the ball speed imposters. And then you see like guys like Chris Gotterup, he shot 72, but he still shot over par of the day. Or Wyndham Clark shot 76, or Bryson shot 78. We thought he was out of it. And then the weather turned and it got softer and warmer and benign conditions, and all of a sudden these guys started treating this place like it was the old TPC Craig Ranch, not the new one that apparently put teeth in it. And then you start seeing kind of these guys who are just pretty good drivers, and like maybe like your prototypical like PGA Tour type leaderboard, And like you see, like Chris Goddard rise up the leaderboard. You see guys like Wyndham Clark have a really good round, shoot 66, 65 over the weekend. See like Bryson shoot, 68, 64 over the weekend too. And you even can see that going back to like, St. Andrews, which is driver putter, but like those are really benign conditions. And you just get those types of guys up the top of the leaderboard, your Hovlands, your like back when Hovland was kind of like a little bit like that, like Cam Young, Bryson, like it's no surprise that those guys did well. Even going back to Troon in 2024, the weather in round 3 of the morning was pretty benign. And then you get something like Sam Burns shooting 65 and shooting up the leaderboard there, or Tristan Lawrence, or like even JT doing pretty well in those conditions. In 2023, the conditions in round 3 weren't as bad at Liverpool either. It let up a little bit. You get like Rahm and Cam Young and Dietrich and Hovland and Cantlay even as well. So like it seems like to me like the weather is really dictating the types of guys who I want to look for in open, where the worse the weather, the funkier, the crazier, just like the more off the wall names I'm willing to entertain, like the guys that don't have to just rely on like the driver to get it done. These guys know how to get up and down and rely on the iron play.
A boost to short game and experience.
Right. But it seems, and maybe Birkdale will play differently because it's really narrow. It's very positional. But like, it seems like when you get these guys with 2025 technology on a golf course under 7,300 yards that just doesn't have a lot of wind and fairly big greens, like it can turn a little bit into kind of like your typical PGA Tour type leaderboard, with those types of names where like I'm no longer thinking about the classic ball striker, like those types of like that I would think about in like a really bad weather or like typical opens that I grew up in. So that's how I'm kind of like, that's why it's hard to handicap an open now, because the types of players I probably would want really is impacted by the type of weather I'm going to get. And I'm sitting here in December not knowing. So, but it's just an observation I've had the last couple opens of the more benign and friendlier the weather, the more like maybe like chalk, I feel like in like some of the open leaderboards can be like the more mainstream maybe. And then like the worse the weather, like at Troon, like your Horschels, like Rose, like you're really off the wall, or you get that Brian Harman winner at Liverpool, like those types. So that's kind of where I fall a little bit as far as like how these things go.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but I think you're totally right, because the reason why I say I hate to say it is because I just think that you have a problem now where these golf courses that were designed in the 1800s are really, really struggling without the right weather conditions to play as like these vaunted links golf courses that give us maybe per se the Open Championships that you grew up with or thought about in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, where there's more carnage at every turn versus what we have now, which is we've now had a couple Open Championships. I know there were some concerns and complaints about Portrush last year being too easy as well when the weather died down, and that's just what is going to happen in 2025 with modern technology, unless we get some sort of ball rollback, which won't even really do that much because a lot of these golf courses are running out of room. Like St. Andrews has tees basically in cow pastures, not to do like a whole rollback thing, but Riviera, I was just at a couple hours ago, and the par 3 fourth hole, they've just built a new tee for it to play 280 yards.
Really?
And yeah, I think they're gonna debut it for the Genesis, but it's really
that's the one that everybody hates.
They're bringing the US Open to Riviera in 2031, and the property can't stretch any longer. So there's like 2 or 3 more tee boxes that they can build at Riviera to make the golf course maybe play 7,500 yards, maybe play 7,600 yards. And one of those tees is a 280-yard. It's a 280-yard par three where the caddy I was with was like, "Yeah, DJ was here a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, this is the dumbest. This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen."
Yeah.
So I think Birkdale. I think if you get the right weather, it could be super super fascinating, like that second round in 2017. But for the most part, you hit the nail on the head of like this concept that only experienced, gritty, crafty Europeans, Justin Rose types, Alex Noren types, Tommy Fleetwood types, Tyrrell Hatton types, all those guys that see their odds proprietarily just lower anytime it's an open championship. Like that's not true in 2025 with technology. Like Chris Gotterup can fuck around, have an amazing week, and contend at an open championship sight unseen without playing a round of links golf maybe in his entire life. I don't know. He grew up at Rumson Country Club. Like it's not anything like playing at Royal Birkdale or Royal Portrush. So I think you brought up a good point. Like at a macro level, I don't think you need to be as afraid of guys that don't have links experience, because these golf courses, unless you get crazy weather, are not there's going to be more driver wedge similarities to the typical PGA Tour golf course. I think this is a very club down golf course. Like I don't think this is a bomb and gouge golf course, a golf course that you can throttle with driver off the tee. But I mean, there's a lot of golf courses on the PGA Tour that will play like this, like I don't know, a good example of this, Colonial maybe, right?
Yeah. So like I have it just like estimating, because the only thing available is just when Speed tee and Kuchar tee off, and then just show everybody else. But I just kind of estimate based on like because the routing and just how the holes are designed, it's not the most interesting layout. I feel like it's a lot of just
what do you think the signature hole is at Birkdale?
Honestly, number 6 is a
I have an
blockbuster.
answer, but I don't feel great about it.
I mean, number 6, just looking at how it's designed, it's less than driver because you got to hit it to the dog leg, but then it's into the wind like a 230-yard shot. Like that's pretty difficult. Like that's a pretty hard hole. Yeah, but like otherwise though, like I only remember Birkdale from just the craziness of Spieth versus Kuchar that day, and just how Spieth was complete dog shit for 13 holes, including just the most preposterous drop situation where he goes to the driving range and is directing trailers and like literally taking the RNA and saying like, okay, I'm going to drop my ball next to the Titleist trailer here. It's going to roll under. I can get relief behind the scoreboard here. It takes 20 minutes. And then after that, he snaps out of it and goes 5 under his next 5 holes to completely steal Matt Kuchar's soul and ruin the only chance he had to win a major. Like that's why I remember about this.
Kuchar was really good that week.
He was really good. I feel bad for him because he should have won this thing. He had him, and then Spieth just got off the mat and finished him off when it looked like he was dead. Like Spieth was like, did you watch the final round?
I did watch the final round, and even there was a big flip. I don't know if you remember, but the last hole on Saturday, I think really set the tone for Sunday, where it was like Kuchar had it in tighter and on 18, and Kuchar missed and Spieth made the longer putt. And it was like this big 2-shot swing where Kuchar went from being down 1 to down 3 heading into the final round. And yeah, I mean, we could talk about Spieth, but I mean, I guess let me ask you this: like, do you think that that Kuchar was very accurate? Spieth was a way better driver back then, but he was still a little all over the place. Like what profile are you kind of conjuring from all of this?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, like golf has changed a lot since 2017. To your point about the club choices off the tee, it seems like it's about 50-50 lesson driver to driver.
That's a lot.
It's a
Modern
lot.
day. That's a
Yeah.
lot modern day.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
golf courses that are 85, 90% driver on the PGA.
Yeah, it's definitely closer to 50-50 because like a lot of these dog legs are just like it's really narrow and they're really close to the tee box. Like they're like 260, 270 out. Like unless you want to be a crazy person and just send it no matter what, you're playing back off the tee. But even with that, you still have a lot of shots between 125 and 150 into these greens. So like that's kind of where like if you don't, and this is another point too, where like we talk about with technology and the ball, and like we talk about distance, but these golf balls are incredible. Where even with slight mishits off the face, they're not going to directionally go in wayward directions. Like they don't spin as much off the club face in longer distances. No. The only way to screw with these guys is if you add wind and weather. And that's why I think like it just has eliminated a lot of that open experience stuff because these guys are just using equipment and golf balls that just really reduce the margin of error. So when you get a lot of these guys in less than driver situations where they can hit a 4-iron 240, 250 comfortably and just have a wedge in, like if you don't have very adverse weather conditions, you're going to get, I would say maybe more of like a mainstream PGA Tour type, like leaderboard. So it's going to depend on the weather. Like, am I going to want like the typical traveler type guys or colonial type guys that like really solid consistent ball strikers who like are good like with their wedges and good short game, and or is it going to be more the mainstream ones, where I don't really have to rely on that. So it's hard to gauge right now as far as what you want, but overall though it's a lot of less than driver holes. It's a lot of shots between like 100 and 150 yards. There is a fair amount of shots over 200 yards. There's kind of a bit of a dead zone between 150 and 200, like kind of like that middle iron range.
Agreed.
So it's a little bit of an extreme there. It's actually like proximity bucket wise, it's similar to a Ronimink in that respect. Like we talked about a lot of short irons, but a lot of longer irons too. Mm-hmm. So it's like
my Ronimink model is like not that different.
Yeah.
I have a lot of like kind of open championship history in there, but the golf course I don't think is going to play that different from a Ronimink, it is a really interesting major year because even if I say like, okay, I think maybe you've got me closer to be a little higher on distance than accuracy at Shinnecock. Even with that, Ronimink and Birkdale are way more accuracy than distance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why when I ran these models, like the most EV bets consistently across the board are JJ Spaun and Russell Henley. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing in my Birkdale. Well, actually, I should say my most EV bet on the board is technically Christopher Reitan, who I have at 120 to 1, and the market has him at 400 to 1. But JJ Spawn's 150 to 1 to win the Open Championship, and my true odds are 50 to 1. Daniel Berger is 150 to 1 to win the Open Championship. My true odds are 75 to 1.
Yeah, but like Berger
sucks.
Yeah, he sucks. but I get it though. If you're going for accuracy ball strikers, like that's still intact for him. I don't know what happened when he gets to the green and when he's around the green. That's been horrible for the last 6 months.
I don't trust
Berger. I get it though.
But I don't trust Berger for shit. But the other guy that actually really did stand out to me at 125 to 1 is Alex Noren, who's been who has been playing very, very, very good golf. And if you look at Alex Noren's Open Championship resume, and I took out St. Andrews the golf courses that I wanted to look at here, like all the Mackenzie and Eberts, but take out St. Andrews and just look at Carnoustie, Birkdale, Liverpool, Portrush, St. George's, Troon. If you take out St. Andrews from the mix, he has played those golf courses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. He has 6 top 25s and 9 opens, including a 6th at Birkdale in 2017. He also finished 11th in 2019. At 2019 was Portrush. Yeah, you're right. And then he also finished 13th at Troon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with him, that's a guy where I want worse weather.
Of course.
I want rock fight. I want up and down. I want and even the comp with like him and Kuchar, like Kuchar hits those really scummy wipey fades and Noren hits those really scummy wipey fades. Like I can see it like with that type of profile there. That's one I have highlighted for if he still is holding some form and the weather just looks like complete junk that week. Definitely one of just like that's a guy I can see. Like that's more the direction I'm going to gravitate towards with that profile player if it's bad weather.
It's even kind of like, I would say I agree. I like him better in those conditions, but like Alex Noren can light up a birdie fest.
Mm-hmm.
With his
he's been playing very well lately, ever since he came back from the injury, for sure. I think I run 12 months iron stuff, and that's a little shaky, but
I do too.
Yeah, but I mean, he's definitely playing better. He played really good in the fall. He won the BMW PGA. He lost a playoff at Hero. He played good at a couple other tournaments too. So he's got a little bit of a career revival after his injury. So that's definitely highlighted for me. Like if it's the problem is like if I don't think worse weather, he's got a really shit.
I would say assume Steve, like this is kind of how I ran my model. Assume the scoring is similar to 2017, kind of in the middle. Maybe you have one really bad weather day and one really easy weather day. And the winner, like if you look at the last couple Open championships, again, like take out St. Andrews, like 10 to 15 under, right? You have a little bit of good weather, a little bit of bad weather. I kind of just took the average scoring with a couple Birkdale nuances and came up with a winning score of, if it's under similar conditions to what we've experienced at Opens, with a little bit of added from 2017, it should be like minus 13-ish 0.7. I came up with something like that. Yeah.
Well, here's a guy we like for Aronimink, and he's got some decent Open Championship success. His short game's not the best, so if it's really windy like that, might not be great, but like a Sepp Straka type. If you're looking for just guys hitting a lot of fairways, good ball striker.
Absolutely.
I actually looked up some strokes gained for some slower greens. He's actually putt pretty well on those types. That's one you could probably look at. Like if you want to go towards more like the Colonial, Sea Island, like those types of guys where they got solid short games, good putters, pretty decent from like under 150. I think Matt McNeely played all right at the Open last year.
Sure.
So that's another type. Like if you want to go like really off the wall, like type of like that profile of guy, if you want to go down that type of road, that could work for you. Like obviously your Russell Henleys, your Fleetwoods, like those types. Aaron Rise, even.
Can I bring up a name? And I'm with you on all of this. Henley, he's 80-1. I have his true odds at 40-1. JJ Spawn, again, the biggest discrepancy on the board, 50-1 versus 150-1. And who else? Who else did you mention? Oh yeah, Mav McNeely. I even have him a little bit positive too. Straka. Oh, Straka was the guy I was going to mention. I was a little bummed that Straka is best odds 55 here.
Yeah.
Where Aronimink, he was 70. But can I give you a name that we haven't really talked about at all that I bet at last year's Open?
Sure.
What about Rom?
Oh, here we go.
Well, here's my thing.
No, I'm with you here because he was my pick to win the Open last year.
He was both of ours, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's the thing about Rom. I really couldn't get him to show as anything remotely close to positive value at his current betting numbers. Like, I do not think that a 12-1 future on Jon Rahm anymore is anything close to a good number, because we have just seen with Liv that if a guy on Liv doesn't contend at a major and doesn't blow the doors off of Liv, like isn't winning multiple times on Liv, they have no problem now bringing Jon Rahm down to 20-1 at a major, right? Like before, I felt like Rahm is never going to go past, 16-1 felt like a huge number for Rahm at a major. I think Rahm's going to have a better year in 2026 than he did in 2025, although he did end up playing better at the majors than I think people thought. But I don't know. I don't think that it's a great major year for Bryson, comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
I just don't like these venues for Bryson. I probably have even more concerns at Shinnecock about him than you do. But I don't know. Are we going to see 2 years where a Liv player doesn't win a major? That's like not anything quantifiable, but I would like to see Rahm contend here. I think it is still a decent spot for him to contend.
Yeah. I mean, I would like, I just enjoy seeing Rahm just in the mix in general. Just because I know he's still a world-class player.
I had Scheffler at Quail, and
Yeah.
I was terrified of him for a 45-minute stretch. Terrified. He's still got that, like he's still scary when he's playing great golf. He's still got top 2 in the world upside.
Yeah, and great short game. Like he's somebody who, like, he's a great driver, but he can club. I've seen him club down in certain situations, put that driving iron out in the middle of the fairway, and then I think a knock on him though is his short iron game just hasn't been all that great the last like 2 years or so. That's a bit of a knock on him. But also too, I'm looking at like the strokes game from under 150, like that's 2 years of Liv, like, and we're missing 2 years of data of that. So like, I can't even really make that conclusion anymore on him. That's old data that I'm looking at. So, yeah, like he's got a great Open history. Like
he has been great at Opens. Like
yeah.
I did the comp courses strokes gained taking out St. Andrews, and Scotty won now. Just wanted everything based on his performance at Portrush, probably doing a lot of work there. Xander 2, Rahm 3, Spieth 4. Rahm's been quite good at Open Championships. He finished runner-up to Brian Harman by 1 million strokes at Birkdale, but he finished runner-up. He finished 3rd at Portrush in 2021. He finished 7th, very quietly, 7th at Troon last year.
Yeah. Another guy that's been pretty decent.
Excuse me, 3rd at Royal St. George's in 2021. My apologies.
Yeah. Like we mentioned for Hieronymic, we think there's a little bit of a crossover between that and here. I mean, like I could see Hovland in play too, just because he's a great ball striker and he's had a couple of decent Opens. One is St. Andrews. I think he played all right at Liverpool as well. And then I think St. George's, he was like, I think top 20-ish or so. So, that's another guy I could get myself around to if he maybe drifts a little bit.
I just don't think 40-1 anymore. I just think he could go in either direction.
It could, it could. I'm just thinking like just conceptually, just like
him.
Now I'm not necessarily saying betting it, because I think you're crazy about the Open right now, because like, especially if you're somebody like me, where I think I'm like, depending on the weather, it might be 2 completely polar opposite profiles. What I'm looking for at this place, like, yeah, I'm not really going to be betting anything at this point.
I
So,
had
and we don't even know, like, if there's a crazy weather split, then why place your bet in like December right now?
can't
So,
do it. I have
no.
JJ Spawn like off market by about as big as you could probably get, and I still am like, I don't really want to bet him 150 to 1 to win the Open. I just I don't know. I don't, it's a golf course that you really have, or a golf tournament that you really have to exercise some patience with compared to the other majors, because I want to say, I know everybody talks about, the famous year at Troon in 2016 being the greatest example of this. I'm pretty sure there was a pretty strong wave advantage in 2017 at Birkdale as well.
Yes. Well, I'd have to go back.
I'd have to go back and see the extent of it, but the difference between the first and the second round was 2 strokes, and the difference between Friday afternoon and Friday morning was quite a bit.
Yeah, it probably did impact some of those guys for sure. I didn't look specifically into that, but anytime you see something like that, yeah, there's probably something that happened for sure.
So, I mean, let's just finish up here with, your one guy for the U.S. Open, and then your one long shot, and then Open Championship.
Okay.
Have you picked Scotty to win a major yet?
What's that?
Have you picked Scotty to win a major yet?
I haven't.
There's a market up on DraftKings, terrible market. Do not bet this. Like, I ran some numbers on it, and those odds are completely inflated. But I was doing it for Tom and Marty's in the Discord because there's some Discord chatter on it. My fare on Scotty to win a major in 2026 is -130. By the way, DraftKings has him -150. So
yeah, I mean, if you're right, and I definitely agree with you, Ron, making here, like, and obviously with Augusta, like, if it's going to be accuracy premium, yeah, take Scotty. For the U.S. Open, I'm gonna go back. If my lean right now is, well, I think in tournament accuracy is definitely important. At the end of the day, sometimes when you get to these types of tournaments, it's just the guys who have the highest ball flight and separate themselves. And I've been chasing this U.S. Open for a couple of years now. I'll go Rory at the U.S. Open.
Sick.
Finally getting that.
Sick.
Long shot. Let me get back to my sheet.
I'm going Hideki U.S. Open, by the way.
Okay. All right. I'll let you have him. I will claim, because I already picked Fitson, I think, for the Masters. Screw it. I'll go that Russell Henley 70 to 1. Let's appease
Great
you.
number.
Okay. It is.
I think I already used him at the Masters as my long shot.
Yeah.
But I actually even like him more at Shinnecock, so that was silly of me.
Okay.
I'm going Aaron Rai 150 to 1.
Oh, you love Aaron Rai.
I sure do.
Two gloves.
The man knows his way around a links, and he knows how to hit a fairway.
He does.
What about Birkdale for you?
You know what? Here's where I'll go Scotty. Back-to-back Open Championships for Scotty here. Yeah. And then for long shot, I love that Alex Noren pick. I'm going to take Alex Noren. That's the guy I had highlighted in green. And and my co-host is going to listen to this and laugh because he thinks I'm a loser every time I bet Alex Noren. And usually it's a lot of losing bets, but I'm a sucker for this guy and I'm going to take him here.
But Noren does win golf tournaments on the DP World Tour.
The problem is I don't bet DP World Tour the whole time. That's the problem.
Noren won 2 golf tournaments since August. He's won 2 out of his last 7 starts. Noren, I gotta go with you. Like, Noren's my guy as the long shot for the Open, and I'm gonna say Rahm.
Okay.
You picked Bryson to win the Masters.
I did, just kind of let's have a little fun with it. But
I couldn't really, based on these venues, I couldn't really, and the numbers that they have, I couldn't really get to like good places on Rory. Really, I couldn't really. I don't know. I think that his numbers right now kind of sitting around like 8-1, 9-1. That doesn't really pique my interest at majors right now.
No, I mean, I'm not betting any of those right now. Like, but you're asking me as far as like where I'm kind of leaning right now. I mean, there is a 10-1. And if I'm still sitting here feeling the same
At
way,
what major?
US Open, there is a 10-1 out there for him. And if I'm still feeling this way, like I did bet the 100 on Fitzpatrick, because like if I do want to if I do want a single bullet something at the US Open, like if I do want to pick Rory, I could do 10 and then 100, and then that's like my card right there. So I'm saving that. But yeah, like at this point, I feel like the PGA has the best value as far as it's the most wide open, I think, of all four majors, as far as like there's a lot of good numbers out there. And I think there's a lot of diversity as far as the types of guys who could do well there. And I don't think you're going to have to really worry about weather too much with that. So I think that one is the best tournament right now to bet, because there's still a lot of really good numbers out there for a lot of different guys.
Yeah. And even when I ran the model for creating numbers to win a major, I still had Rory as second most likely player to win a major in 2025 at plus 360 to win a major in 2026. The issue is DraftKings has him at plus 150, I believe, to win a major in 2026, which is not a good number. I really want those cowards at DraftKings to put up Sepp Straka to win a major, because like I have him at around 10-1 to win a major in 20. I know that sounds like a really low number, but you should see the DraftKings numbers. They're horrendous. They don't have Straka on DraftKings, and my local has it too. And they have like Marco Penge 25-1 to win a major in 2025, and Straka isn't listed.
That is all fueled by Kyle right there. The Marco Penge win a major right there. That's calling for him.
Yeah.
At this point. Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, we will get to talk more about, I will definitely be using this tool to identify players, my big board for the majors draft, which we will do next year and hopefully, or next week. And hopefully we don't get a situation where Scheffler really we're selling Kyle short. Like he also had the steal of the draft in Harris English, but that first pick's really big.
Well, I mean, I was half kidding by saying we should do without Scotty, but I'm not completely opposed to that either.
We can't do it though.
Fine.
What if Scotty isn't as good in 2026?
We've said that a lot. I think we've said that the last like 2 years. I'm like, all right, well, like Scotty, like, yeah, he was great last year, but like everybody regresses at some point, and it took him being a dumbass cutting ravioli with a wine glass to actually do it. So unless he does that again, like all this might be for moot. This entire 3 hours we basically devoted to a major preview.
The thing that's annoying about Scotty is he went through all the things that you can utilize to discredit him, and like got through all of those. Like first it was like, oh, he doesn't win on new golf courses he hasn't seen before. Then it was like, oh, he doesn't win like across the pond, or he's got like Augusta as his playground, but he doesn't win when the conditions are, he doesn't win on lengths. He had a kid, maybe that will slow him down. He hurt himself in a cooking accident, maybe that'll slow him down. He got arrested, maybe that'll slow him down.
He doesn't win after May.
He doesn't win after May. Yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, it is. So,
all right, Steve, this was a pleasure as always. Got anything else to plug on Hold the Green? Tough year for our Giants.
Yeah, it is another suffering year, but I mean, just is what it is. We get used to it at this point. But no, that's why we gamble on football, where we can actually bet and root for other competent teams with our own money, not the Giants per se. So yeah, we're gonna have a show tomorrow night, NFL picks. Like you mentioned, we are going to do our majors draft next week. That'll be a lot of fun. We also, maybe I'll kick it back to you. We're going to be starting our one and done league as well.
Huge. I was
Yep.
going to do an ad for this at the beginning of the podcast, but we're going to have 2 different leagues. One that is just for members of ISN, where there's no buy-in, and the prizes are non-financial but really good things, like all expenses paid for rounds at some really great golf courses. And then we're also just going to do, so you have to be a member of ISN to join that one. And all you have to do is be a member of ISN for throughout the year to join that one. And then so you can get the prizes when the season ends. It's free to join, and all of the prizes are like experiences and stuff like that. And then we're just doing a regular one open to anyone as well, with a $50 buy-in, just for like friends of the podcast and friends of ISN. Even if you listen to the podcast and you don't want to subscribe to all the other stuff, that you just want to be in a one and done league with us, we'll have that too. And I'll tweet that out as well. So 2 options.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. And I literally could not do worse at one and done last year. So it's only up from here for me. So
yeah,
we're going to really bank on that regression, that positive regression.
Staff one and done.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I was really throwing shit against the wall for the second half of the year. Nothing was
tough. I'm not that good at one and done either.
I'm terrible at it.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough. So anyway, thank you, Steve. As always, this was a blast. Hopefully we gave out some great info on Birkdale and Shinnecock, and I will see you next week for the majors draft.